Okay, welcome back. It's AJ, and now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Markate and the process of estimating. So Markate, they go and they create all the tools you need to create a professional looking estimate. However, it's up to you as the handyman to figure out what the numbers are, what details you put in there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because the tool is great. It'll help you do all that. But if you don't know how to estimate, which seems to be a common problem with the handyman, I'm going to talk about a couple of ways to possibly do that. So let's say, we talked in the last video that I received an inquiry from Joe Elliott. We had a conversation. Now he's reached back out to me with another inquiry. He wants me to come back and give him an estimate for some additional work. So we did that process of going back and forth on text. He sent me some pictures, some descriptions, and I've taken all that information. I've put it into an estimate. And if I come into my estimates, this is what it looks like. I'm going to go into the edit view here. Okay, so Joe reached out to me. I can reach up here and touch his customer information number. So Joe Elliott reached out to me. It's got his job location information. It's got the estimate date and expiration date. And these are the services that Joe said he needed done. He needed painting a room, moving some furniture, some help with some exterior cracks, valance, and drywall. And this is an example of an options estimate. So when the customer sees this on their end, they'll have the option to choose, do I want to choose all these services, paint in the room, the valance, or drywall, or do I just want to choose a few of them? Um, so this is kind of a behind the scenes view, and I want to talk a little bit specifically about how do I estimate it? How did I figure out this room is going to cost $795 to paint? Well, let's talk about that. So if I come in here to the edit, the first thing you have to do is you have to give it an item name. I just keep this simple, paint the room, right? Because everybody understands that. But the real meat is down in the description here. So in that dialogue back and forth, I have to determine all the factors that I know about as a handyman that it takes to paint this room. So the first and the most important one is the size of the room. So that's the first question I generally ask. What size is the room? Are there vaulted ceilings? Are there multiple colors? And is the homeowner providing the paint, or are they asking me to provide the paint? I generally, if it's a solid colored room and it's not matching anything, if they want me to pick up the paint, I will. If there's any matching involved, I've learned my lesson the hard way. Do not do that. Let the homeowner deal with the matching paint. You just show up and do the painting. But in a situation like this, I assumed that the room is going to be empty, and I made this stipulation. This estimate assumes that the room is going to be empty, it requires minimal furniture moved. If it's significant moving back and forth, I have to take that into consideration because I've walked into rooms that are ready to paint and I can't do anything because it's filled with stuff. And then, in those cases, I've just eaten it. But how did I come up with this $795 cost? Um, so what I normally do is if I don't know, like I know based off my previous paint jobs that this is kind of roughly the estimate for that. But what if I didn't know that, or for any of my jobs? Within the Markate app, there is that cost estimator option, which links you to Homewise, but I prefer just to go straight over to Homewise, and not just straight to Homewise, but I'll Google Homewise, in this case, painting room. And when I do that and I come down here, it says Homewise cost to paint rooms. So when I come into this, I could just put my zip code in there. Let's say down in Texas, so 78148. And let's say this room was 144 square feet that have to be painted. So I go and I hit the update buttons, and now it tells me, right? It tells me this is the cost of the paint, so approximately 154 square feet of paint. If the homeowner is providing that, I go ahead and I take that off. I'm mostly focused on the labor and what it's telling me the amount of time that it's going to take. So this is telling me it's going to take 8.3 hours, possibly. It's probably the median or the average. Low end could be 350, high end could be 835, plus any other supplies you may need, and it kind of gives you a cost per square foot down here and a total cost. Um, because I don't like painting a whole lot, I generally move towards the higher side because if I'm going to do a paint job, I'm going to get paid for it. I'm not the kind of crazy guy, or at least not anymore, that's going to do it for $358 just because a lot of people don't understand the amount of time it takes to set up painting, to paint, to break everything down, and then come home and clean everything up. By the time you're all said and done, it's just a heck of a lot of time. But this is a good way to come in. Like if you're not sure to come into this range and be like, you know what, I'm going to go for the 50% mark. I'm going to say, 525 or 560 or whatever the number is, and then see what happens. See if you were able to do that. See if you learned any lessons from that, and then revise your estimates going forward. Because pretty soon, if you paint 4 or 5 rooms, your estimate for room painting should drastically improve. So that's probably the easiest and best way to do it. And I'll talk about another way to possibly do it. So the option to move furniture, if required, moving furniture back and forth. So how did I come up with this? Well, I don't go to Homewise for that. I go and I essentially look at the pictures. So as part of this estimate, and I was trading pictures back and forth, the homeowner was providing me pictures of the room. So in this case, here's a picture of the room. I can see the furniture. Um, Let me see. Maybe there's another picture. I think there's another picture I didn't upload. Anyway, I took a look at it. I'm like, okay, it's probably going to take me 35, 40 minutes, if that, to move all that stuff out. Again, I really don't want to do it. But if they don't want to do it, it's going to be $95. And how do I come up with that? Well, that's basically my hourly cost. Um, Another tough lesson to learn is how much does it cost you for each hour of work that you do? This is, beyond expenses and anything else. As a handyman, I had started off at $65, but I didn't take into consideration overhead expenses, taxes, my desire to do some work. But after reading a book by Alan Lee on pricing, I came out to about $95 to $200 an hour. So that's generally the other way that I do estimates. I just look at what has to be done. I think about it. I say, it's an hour. I round up usually, and I say, okay, this is what my number is going to be. So that's how I do simpler estimates. And then things for exterior cracks, same type of thing. I look at the pictures, and in a situation like this, I actually went over there and said, okay, let me look at the cracks. How high up are they? How much ladder time do I have to have? Is there any special product that's needed for this? Is there something beyond what the customer is asking me for? And in that particular situation, I looked around. There was some high ladder work. It wasn't that complicated, but ladder work always adds time, especially you have to move the ladder around. So in this particular case, I said, you know what, it's probably going to take me at least 2 hours moving that ladder and going up and down. So in that case, $195, essentially close to $100 an hour. Here's my number. I probably came out over 200 when I first estimated this, but it's an old sales tactic. You just lower it to the you round it down. So instead of saying 200 something, I should have probably said 199, but that's a little too obvious. So I go with 195. Anyway, that's how I put the estimates together. It's not rocket science. A lot of it's learning. A lot of it's going back to Homewise. Once it's all said and done, I save it. I send it off to the customer, and then I go from there. So hopefully this helps. I know it doesn't answer everything, but it talks a little bit about Markate, how to use the estimating functionality within there, and then how to estimate in general. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please click like and subscribe to the video. I'll put a link in here to Markate if you haven't used it before and you want to try out a free trial offer. If you click on that link, you get a free 2-week trial, which is how I started off. And it's kind of like the gateway drug. Once you start using Markate, you can't turn it off. You need it. So I highly recommend you try it out. If you click on that link, that helps me out. I think I get a discount on my monthly subscription or something of that nature. But anyway, I appreciate it. If there's anything else you want, just go ahead and leave a comment in the bottom, and I will try to create some more content on that. Thank you.